past season, maybe if they would like to, what they're looking for this coming season, and maybe anything else they'd like to highlight about their programs. And it looks like Coach Haynes has some things that he's going to show you as well. So let me start by introducing Roger. Roger Haynes, our athletic director at Monmouth College. Some of you may know him as our former head track and field coach. I have about, 6 pages dedicated to you, Roger. I don't know, I didn't get anything about the rest of you. Those are all about Roger. So.
It doesn't pay any actually.
Now, Coach was here more than 40 years as a student athlete, coming to Monmouth from Avon. He was a student athlete in the late 70s and early 80s. And then now, as an athletic director, oversees our 20 intercollegiate varsity teams and over 400 student athletes on campus. He's a former school record holder in the high jump and the javelin. And in 2007, he was named the Division III Men's National Coach of the Year for the indoor season by the U.S. Track and Field and Cross Country Coaches Association, and was inducted into the Monmouth Hall of Fame in 1997. Let's go to Derek. Derek Brockmeyer, our volleyball coach. He was named the volleyball coach in April of 2023. Derek comes to Monmouth from North Central College up in Naperville, where he was an assistant coach. He previously coached some club volleyball in the Chicago area from 2019 to 2023. Derek played club volleyball as a 4-year starting outside at the University of Nebraska, Omaha, where he earned a bachelor's degree in business administration with an emphasis in human resources, and then earned a master's degree in human resources management from Concordia University in St. Paul. Derek's from Central City, Nebraska, where he competed in cross-country basketball and track. Now I don't know if you wrote this. He's a self-proclaimed volleyball nerd that stemmed from watching great high school volleyball and following the Nebraska Cornhuskers volleyball program as a kid. So let's go on to Michelle, native of Monument, Colorado. Michelle Decoux is our women's basketball coach and joined Monmouth in May of 2023. She came to Monmouth from Hastings College, in an AIA program in Hastings, Nebraska, where she spent 5 seasons there as an assistant head coach to the junior varsity team. Michelle joined Hastings as a grad assistant, earning a master's of arts degree in teaching in English language arts in 2020. While at Hastings, she helped the Broncos to 2 conference finals appearances and a pair of NAIA national tournament berths. Michelle played at the University of Dallas, where she set school records in blocks and shooting percentage, while ranking in the top 5 in rebounds, field goals made, and points scored. She graduated from Dallas in 2018 with a Bachelor of Arts degree in business. Michelle was named an All-American by the United States Collegiate Athletic Association 3 times. In 17-18, she was selected to the first team after being named second team in 16-17, an honorable mention in 15-16. Brian Woodard. Coach Woodard's been a mainstay at Monmouth since graduating from the college in '97 and was elevated to his current position in July 1, 2022. Before being the head coach, Coach Woodard was a Fighting Scots assistant cross country and track and field coach for 24 seasons. Also served as a strength and conditioning coach from 2009 to 2022. Brian took over as a throws coach in 2000, was named the 2013 Indoor Track and Field Women's Assistant Coach of the Year by the U.S. Track and Field Cross Country Coaches Association for his work with the throwers. And that same year, he earned the Midwest Region Women's Assistant Coach of the Year for the 2nd year in a row. Monmouth throwers have earned All-American status 30 times under Brian's guidance, including 6 in 2013 when the Scots nearly crowned their first female national champion, 8-time All-American Allison DeVore. On the conference level, Brian has coached both the men's and women's indoor record holders in the shot put and weight throw. Outdoors, Brian's throwers lay claim to 4 league records. And last, but certainly not least, Coach Chad Braun. Coach Braun became the 31st head coach in Monmouth football history in 2015 after serving as the defensive coordinator for 15 seasons. Chad didn't wait long to earn a conference title, winning the Midwest Conference crown in just his 2nd season. The same year, the Scots claimed their 4th Gagliardi Trophy finalist. His team repeated as champions in 2017, earning their first back-to-back titles since Chad's assistant days in 08 and 09. Another league title came the Scots way in 2019. The same year, Chad earned his 5th straight Coach of the Year honor from the Midwest Conference. Monmouth shared the conference crown in 2022, and the inaugural Lakefront Bowl, which Chad can maybe talk to you about if you're not familiar with it, after losing out on the automatic bid tiebreaker. Chad continues to direct the defense even as head coach, a defense which led the nation in scoring defense in 2016 and 2018. 2016 squad coupled with the offense, which laid claim to the nation's top individual pass efficiency rating to win their 5th league crown with Chad on the coaching staff. Let's go ahead and stop there. And if, like I said, if I could have you guys give a few minutes, just again on this past season, if there are players you would like to highlight, what you're looking forward to this current season, and then we'll give it over to Coach Haynes and what he's got to show for you. Then we'll open it up for questions.
All right. Yeah. So our indoor season wrapped up in early February, late February, with our men and women both finishing second at the conference championships. And then a couple weeks later, we took 2 men out to Virginia Beach, Virginia, for the NCAA championships. One guy finished 16th, which made him second team All-American. And we came back in early May and finished up our conference meet there, where our women finished second. Our men finished 4th, unfortunately. Again, we took out to Myrtle Beach, a little bit nicer in Myrtle Beach in May than it is in Virginia Beach in March, I can tell you that. The temperatures are quite drastic, different, but came back with Caleb Toberman was a second team All-American. Went out there, ranked 10th, came back, finished 11th. He also broke our school record, the discus, the week prior. It's kind of our season in a nutshell. Had really nice seasons for Maddie Boley, who's a crowned indoor weight throw champion, was second in the shot, and then same thing outdoors. She won 3 events at the outdoor conference championship. She won the shot, the discus, and the hammer. Was named athlete of the field event, athlete of the meet. So.
I didn't ever get to go to Myrtle Beach for the national meet. When I was coaching, I got to go to Grinnell, Iowa. So, it was pretty deluxe when I was coaching. So things have changed quickly here recently. Coach Braun?
All right, football season, we ended up 9-2 this past season. Had a good run, came up a little short in the conference. We lost early in the year to Illinois College, 20-17. And never thought that game was going to really impact us, but it did. They ended up having a real nice year and win the conference. And so, we got to go to the Lakefront Bowl again. Played a familiar opponent in St. Norbert, a team, that's no longer in the conference, but it was good to match up with them in the bowl game. We're down 14-0 in the third quarter. Rallied 21 straight points, scored late in the fourth to beat them. So always good to break their hearts. And one thing I didn't realize that we'd won 5 out of the last 6 meetings with St. Norbert. So that's always good to do to those guys for sure. So some guys to highlight, we had a defensive end, Anthony Secaucus, lead the nation in sacks this year with 17. He was only a sophomore. And so with this transfer portal, everyone tried to steal him from us, and he almost left, but he's back, so we'll have him back next season. And our quarterback had a really good year this year for 3,009 yards, 26 TDs, ran for another 500 yards and 9 TDs. So he's going to be a tough guy for us to replace next year. So.
Could you explain the Lake Bowl again?
Lakefront Bowl, yeah. So it's the second place team from the Midwest Conference versus the second place team from the NAC, which is like Aurora, Lakeland, St. Norbert, Benedictine, Wisconsin Lutheran, Eureka. That conference, the second place team from that conference. They meet up at a neutral site. Wisconsin Lutheran is where the game is played. And so it's just kind of a nice consolation prize. You have a great season, and we would have ended up, I think, 8-2, and our season been over, but we get an opportunity to play one more game, and almost, it's like 95% of expenses are paid for. We have to pay a small percentage.
It's sponsored by Cousin Subs. If you've ever eaten Cousin Subs in Wisconsin, is one of my favorite. It's like a Jimmy John's type deal, soup and sandwich. Bad news is you don't get any free subs after the game. I don't understand that.
No.
They help pay the hotel bills and the travel bills, but no free food. So I don't get that.
Yep.
Derek?
Yeah, awesome. Volleyball wise, we had an okay year, I would say. We went 11-13. Overall, 4-4 in conference. Put ourselves in a good position to make the conference tournaments. Did everything really well up until the very end of that match to be able to have a shot to go to the conference tournament. Overall, I think there was a lot of learning opportunities for the team. Very outgoing coach. I am very competitive coach, and I think that's something that we're changing a little bit about our program, our volleyball program. So I think the future is bright, especially with the incoming class that we have coming in. We have some great senior leaders coming back that are going to help kind of hone in on our defense a little bit more, be able to hone in on our offense a little bit more, and hopefully be able to make that conference tournament. I think we're going to have a solid team this season, as long as we go into the gym and work every single day and want to be competitive and fight for it. So again, I think we had a good year. I think the best part of the year was our spring season, where we were able to get better as not only volleyball players, but as athletes in general, and that's what it's going to take to win the conference and be able to compete at that level.
Derek has pretty big, pretty talented incoming class coming in. We've got our fingers crossed. Multiple 6 foot tall, 6 foot plus girls, which is a advantage. Lots of talented girls from lots of different areas, and we'll see how good he is, because we'll see if he can meld those freshmen with the seniors, and how young women can be. So he and I probably spent more time talking about that than we have anything else. Michelle?
Yeah, so for women's basketball, our squad was quite young this year. I had a roster of 15, and of those 15, 11 were sophomores. Of those 11, 4 or 5 had playing experience as freshmen. So coming off a transition with the head coach, obviously, and then such a young squad, it was definitely a developmental season for us. Definitely a lot of growth in them from the beginning to the end. We competed, though. I won't mention our record because on the surface it's not great. But
Michelle got left with the third coaching change in 4 years. So we had a coach leave right after COVID. He didn't do nearly enough during COVID to get recruits, so we're short junior and senior classes. And then we had an incoming coach come in and do a nice job for 2 years, but she chose to take a position at another school in another league. So lots of changeover for the women's basketball program. And I don't know how many of your card players, but she wasn't dealt a whole lot of great cards, but it's getting better for sure.
But they are maturing well. I'd say a lot of them are coming back next year. They'll be great junior leaders. And so just looking to kind of boost those numbers over the next few recruiting classes will be really big for us. And them getting to really set the tone for the competitive edge will be awesome, obviously, as they grow into juniors and seniors. So really proud of them for how they grew and how they came into the gym every day looking to get better. We talk a lot about 1% every day, whether that be on the court or in a film session. And then they really apply themselves in the classroom. They had the highest team GPA on campus, I think, of both ball teams, with 3.5, and then they carried that over into the spring. Overall, they ended up with a 3.5 as a group. So very smart squad, a lot of very applied, 2 4.0s in there. So I take a lot of pride in that. And then their performance in the classroom is equally as important as their performance on the court, setting them up to be productive people after college, not just productive athletes. So very excited for next season, for them coming back, and for the growth that they continue to invest in this summer and in the fall.
Kudos.
Questions for the coaches right now? I'll certainly have time to ask questions later, but okay, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, when we were in school, a lot of athletes did more than one sport. I can remember, well, when I coached track, we had a babysitter for a coach and somebody had to do it. I went out and grabbed a guy off the basketball team to high jump, 164. Are we doing stuff like that, getting guys off other teams to come and run and jump?
How many do you guys have that are multi?
I would say probably, I think the biggest combination is probably football track, I would imagine.
Numbers just under 40 for our whole department. We've got about 400 athletes. We've got about 40-ish that are choosing to do multiple sports, multiple ways. our message has always been that we want to support what the kids' interests are. Do we go out and draft them? Had a young man come out for basketball that had played 3 years, I think, come out for track and decided he wanted the long jump. I think he had a heck of a lot more fun in track than maybe he had in basketball, and I think he's pretty sold. So your point is well taken. Unfortunately, kids tend to be asked to participate in one sport at too young an age now and don't participate in whatever the season is, so they've kind of been untrained to do that. We still have a good number and we still encourage it. Football and track coaches work well together. I think pretty much all of them work well together. If the kid's good, I don't want to hear them talk stuff about another coach. You need to be in one program if that's the case, but I think our number was right at 40 a year ago that we're multi-sport athletes. So
I got one other question. Is this transfer portal that is creating total havoc in Division I, what kind of effect is that having in Division III?
I'll let these coaches answer it. It's horrible. Go ahead, coaches.
Yeah, I think it's for Division III, it's not so much, kids are transferring to another school, they think they can go to another school and play. It's more, they get in it and say they're in the transfer portal, and then that's the new way of quitting. Like, they just quit, like they say, oh, I'm getting in and I'm gonna transfer somewhere, and then they end up just being in the portal and never transfer. And, but yeah, it definitely can impact, this level. I know, one of the baseball teams I saw, like Villanova or somebody did real well, and they had 4 Division III kids playing for them, and they won their regional in baseball. So it can have an impact for sure on our level. Like our defensive end, there were coaches reaching out to him, telling him to get in the transfer portal. They would tell him to get in, so they can try and get them from us. So it's a reality. It's out there.
I think there's multiple problems with it too right now. We're still dealing with a little bit of COVID leftover with 5th year and 6th year guys. And so some of those 5th and 6th year guys are now being kind of lured into other divisions as well. I know right now that the number 1 guy in the 200 meters at the NCAA championships this year went to Ramapo, and he's at Penn State right now, finishing up his 5th year. So there are some good and some bad to some of that. That's a good situation for that kid, but not all of them are good.
Problem for me is every parent and every kid sees something on ESPN and they all believe it and they think that it counts to them. There aren't very many Division III kids that they really want in Division I. There's some that are good enough, but not very many. Just the freedom to go. They should be able to go and go where they're going to be happy, but it's pretty unrealistic. The first school that I know of contacted our defensive end. Their team's in the Mid-American Conference, which is great, but they were 1-11. Do you really want to go to a 1-11 team after playing on a successful team? Debatable. Our guy made the right decision and he's coming back. Who else had a question here?
Go ahead, Chuck.
Michelle, would you believe women's basketball didn't come to my attention until about 6 months ago?
I would believe that.
What's the challenge in recruiting women for your team? And do you recruit them locally? Do you go up to Chicago? How do you find another Caitlin Clark to come to Monmouth?
Well, that would be great if Caitlin Clark would come to Monmouth, right? But I think specifically in this area, we do a little bit of both. So my assistant, Jim Cole, he's been in the area. He's a Monmouth grad, and he has great connections with the coaches in the area who can then, refer great athletes that they have to our program and to him. So we have great connections locally, and then I go a lot up to Chicagoland, the suburb area, to shootouts and get to know the club coaches up there, and kind of the same thing. A lot of it comes down to the relationships you build with the coaches that you know, and them getting to know your program and what you're about, and so then they can kind of help sell that to their athletes, like who are, gonna thrive at a place like Monmouth. So they kind of see that. So I personally, being a Colorado native, would love to bring in some out-of-state blood. Right now my roster is entirely made up of native Illinoisans, which yes, yeah, which is not bad, but love to bring in some new people, kind of, you know, share the secret that is Monmouth with some people from out of state.
Well, I'm gonna be following your record now, when we get material coming here from the school sends out, I'm gonna be following the women's basketball team.
Another question back here?
Yeah, someone had mentioned about the COVID year and the extra years of eligibility. I know a lot of the players who have that, they will leave after 4 years to take a master's program at another. So you guys must be at quite a disadvantage with those kids, they can't really stay.
Not as much as you would think. You know, really, if you know, and this is the last year of it. So this group right now will be the last year that can use that extra year. And we still have, you know, I probably have 5 or 6 football players that are coming back using that 5th year. So it's not as much of a disadvantage as you would think it would be. You know, they pick up like a second minor or second major or something like that here is what they end up doing, so.
Chad's being brave. He can correct me if I'm wrong, but there's a whole bunch of Division III schools that choose to let the COVID kids come back tuition free. So all they had to do was pay room and board, and they came back tuition free. Wartburg's been it. We play them the first game of the year every year. I think they had 24 guys that were 5th year guys 2 years ago. 24, 23-year-old guys on a football team makes a heck of a difference. So he's right, but we didn't do the free tuition. A number of schools in our league and a number of schools in other leagues around us did the tuition free thing for their 5th year. So we didn't make it easier on kids for darn sure.
Any other questions? Yeah, go ahead.
I thought I saw in the publication you had a lacrosse team.
Yep.
Still do?
No, sir. I don't know how deep I want to go into this. I'll start it by saying the president brought it in and the president took it out. I think that's honest. It was highly successful at the school President Wyatt had been at previously. Our men's team did quite well. We were at 27 on a roster, which was a good roster number. Our women, when I did the research originally, I was told by 2 schools in our league that had started it that the women primarily would be women who either played on another sport or who had quit another sport. So we weren't really benefiting from a cost-benefit analysis on that in that program. Logistically, location-wise, we're in a difficult spot because we're not identified as East Coast even close, and we're obviously far, far from Arizona and California. So we had some kids from out of state and it worked quite well. Basically, we had difficulties whenever we had a coaching change. We had one male coach that did a really nice job and we were 2nd in the league, played in the conference tournament. He left and took an NAIA job with 3 full-time assistant coaches for obvious reasons. And is still successful, but we had trouble filling the position again. The East Coast players think that the east edge of Ohio, they're gonna drop off the edge of the earth, so they don't come further than Ohio. So programs didn't grow in Illinois and Wisconsin quite like we thought they would. The only thing I can tell you from a professional standpoint is I use the National Federation of High School Sports statistics that get put out every year on participation by state. So I've got a chart updated for the used to be 22 sports that we had. There's 4 times as many kids playing football, basketball, and track in Florida and Texas and Arizona and California than there are in Illinois. We all know people are leaving, families are leaving Illinois. Just from a sheer numbers, I'm gonna meet with new President Graves on Zoom call at 3 o'clock today, and out-of-state recruiting is one of the things we've got to really figure out. We've done pretty well. Chad's done well. He takes his guys to Florida and they all sleep in the same hotel room, but we get 15, 20 kids a year to come here and play football from Florida. We've got to develop those kind of relationships with alumni. We've got to have some people help host events for us. We've got to be able to go off campus. It's possible that we can do a Monmouth College camp in another state, in another location. So if we had a high school, we could have a Monmouth College football camp we could go to Dallas and do a Monmouth College football camp and kids could choose to come to that. That certainly helps. A school in our league I know sends their football coach to Arizona and he does nothing for a month except go to high school football practices and meet with alums and alums' parents and develop that. So that's a really long answer to no, we don't have lacrosse anymore. It was decided that it was a cost-benefit analysis drain, and I fought for it what I believe was appropriately, and it didn't make it through, so we made that decision a year ago in the spring to not continue those programs. Hopefully that's a fair enough answer.
That was a good answer.
Best I can do today. I'll run through these.
Yeah, let's take that.
I'll run through these things real quickly for you. Right at just over 400 student athletes participated for us, appeared on a roster a year ago. We had 179 Midwest Academic All-Conference honorees from the league as an academic all-conference performer. That means they're 3.3 or higher, so that's almost half of our athletes. When I started as the AD 16 years ago, we were in the 70s the first time, academic all-conference kids, and we've started awarding these honorees to our kids at the Fighting Scott Awards in the spring, and I think it's made a difference. I think they've taken it more seriously, and we're recruiting high academic kids. We had a number of kids make all-region academic and teams make academic all-American. We had, I think, 6 teams that made 3.3 or higher cumulative GPAs for the team. So in my 40 years here, I believe this to be the best academic period we've ever gone through in regards to high GPAs and a fewer number of low GPAs where they're barely getting by. We still have a few of those, but it's a much smaller amount than what we've had in the 40 years I've been here. Good news, important news, as of the Google document I got yesterday, we have 141 deposits coming in for the fall of 2024 in athletics, and the math I did off the list yesterday is that again is 64% of the incoming freshman class at this point in time. So we're doing our job. We need to do our job in some other areas and help get some general students. Not only are we recruiting a high 60% plus group of the freshman classes, we're retaining between 12 and 14% better than the non-athletes are as well. So not only are we getting them, we're keeping them at a higher rate than non-athletic participating males and non-athletic participating females. The females are a bit closer in retention numbers. I think the males are about 14% that athletes stay better. Do we have some come and leave, and you always hear that from the naysayers? We do, but we're still at a much higher percentage. I believe our men are at 76 or 78% to graduation. So our coaches are doing a good job in athletics in terms of recruiting. Our overall goal was for the department is 151. Coach Braun and his staff does a good job. They get more than what I credit them for every year because they have high expectations. I have them down for 35 and they usually get 45 plus. So we've still got some sports, but we got 6 new tennis players this year. I believe we've got 11 or 12 new men's soccer players. We've got 10, 11, 12 new volleyball players. We've had some coaches really do outstanding jobs. So we're doing our part in regards to helping fill the freshman class. If you've walked out by April's Orange Stadium, you can see that things are an absolute mess. There is no grass on the football field as we speak, turf. And there is no track surface on the track surface as we speak. So we've got a big project going on. We're resurfacing the outdoor track for the first time in 43 years. I'll put that one in perspective for you. I turned 64 a week ago on Saturday, and the track hasn't been completely redone since I was a sophomore in college. I got paid to sit out there and watch them the night they put the asphalt in when I was a sophomore in college. So one of my friends and I sat in the car and watched the track. We may have had a adult beverage prior to being 21 years old, but we watched the track and nobody walked on the new asphalt. The field turf was all demolished this week and hauled away. All the new rugs sitting out there in the parking lot by the library, and I'm hoping they're here on Monday to start putting the new turf in. Age span on a track should be about 15 or 20 years. We've resurfaced the top surface, but never the bottom surface, so we had some waffling in the asphalt. That track's 43 years old, so it had some age on it. And the turf we put in 2008, we should have probably been repairing it in 2018 or 2020, and Coach Braun has made it work for us until 2024, so he's going to be happy to have a new surface. So outdoor track project. Unfortunately, we found some damage in the lower level of the outdoor track, and it's gonna cost us even a little more than what we thought it was originally to make it right for the long term, so, I don't know how happy the CFO is about that right now, but once you've got it torn up, you gotta have it fixed. I talked to Coach Woodard this week about potentially having a grass track, Ralph. He wasn't buying in on the grass track idea, so I've gotta keep working to figure that one out. Another thing,
Coach,
yeah.
Could I ask one question?
Yes, sir.
I attended Golden Scots last year, and, just for old times and remembrance' sake, I took an adult beverage and my wife, and we walked out on the football field. And as I said, I had a couple beverages, but I swear the logo was raised.
It was, you're exactly right.
Help me about that. Help me understand how that works.
It's a
Look
real,
at the football coach.
he's the one that had to live with it. We actually had one set of officials complain about it, so Coach Woodard got stuck, and Coach Braun's son, oddly enough. That's how things work still around here. The part of the edges of the Fighting Scots logo was a slightly different type of turf, and it held the granular rubber more than what the green grass held the granular rubber. So when you have a piece of field turf, it's 4-inch long plastic fibers, and then they put sand on the bottom to hold the rug from sliding around when you make a cut, and then they put the crumb rubber on top, so it's much like stepping in dirt so that you can play well. That one color, I don't remember whether it was black or white, but one of the colors in the Fighting Scots logo held the rubber, so we had to take rakes and rub it really, really hard and get the rubber to come out of there so it would flatten back down. We went with the block M this time instead of the huge Fighting Scots.
It was like walking on a leather jacket, you know?
You're exactly right. You're exactly right. And
Home
we had
field
to-
advantage, I didn't know.
No, we had to repair it for the end of the year. We had one set of officials that complained to the league about it. We got out there and scratched the ground and got the rubber loosened up and threw it around. No, that's
Well, we
absolutely
just
right.
wanted to confirm that it wasn't just the adult beverage that you were.
So, you know, if I hadn't had my wife with me who was stone cold sober, I'm pretty sure nobody would believe me.
But so you know how it works around here still. I'm mad because I get a nasty note from the league. The officials didn't talk to me in the press box, and they always come into the press box pregame. They complained to the conference commissioner. She wanted to know what the solution was. Well, the solution was we got out there and started rolling it and doing all the things we could to it. So I called Coach Braun, worked up. I already had Coach Woodard and his assistant out there, so a young track assistant was here in his first couple months. Why the hell was he raking on the football field? I called Coach Braun for help. As a good leader, as a head football coach would do, he did not send his assistant coaches during the season. He called his freshman son and said, get out of bed and find Coach Haynes on the football field. So the freshman son had to help rake for a while. Did he ask any questions? No. Did he say anything? No. He just put his head down and started raking. So, last project I'll talk about, and then we'll answer all your questions. My athletic director report right now is Dean Karen Orgazalik. She works in student life. Been here a long time as well. She's really been active and been very helpful for me on mental health initiatives and some nutrition initiatives, nutrition education for our athletes. Parents expect more and more of us all the time. We're all aware that mental health help. And if you're not aware, mental health help in our country is in a pretty damaged place as far as I'm concerned. It's hard to find good help, anxiety and those types of things. We have a much higher percentage of kids that feel that they have mental health disabilities, difficulties is probably a better word, during the season. Many of our coaches will give a free mental health day if the kid's struggling. You got a day off and you can, banker. I couldn't get a banker to call me for 20 years, and now he's calling me once, and he can't not call me again. So, we're trying to work on those outside of sport things that you may not think about. Not being around a 20-year-old kid every day, they're struggling with some things from a confidence and anxiety standpoint. And my greatest concern, you probably don't even know what I'm talking about. Anybody ever drank an energy drink, drank a Red Bull, or drank one of those damn drinks? College kids walk around them now, super high in caffeine, super high in sugar, really bad for your heart. In 20 years, we're gonna have a group of 40-year-olds who all have bad hearts because of how many energy drinks they drink. I had a friend of mine, we got about 6 coffee places in Monmouth, Illinois. How many coffee joints can you really need in Monmouth, Illinois? But what does almost every one of our kids do when they walk through in the morning? they've all got a $7 cup of coffee in their hand because that's how they live now. They don't eat breakfast, they drink a cup of coffee or they drink a high-powered energy drink that gets them all souped up. There's a whole bunch of them drink that stuff before practice and drink that stuff before games. I'm confident there are gonna be health issues coming from it. It's already pretty well determined. So we're trying to work on some mental health and nutrition initiatives for our athletes. So that's what I've got. We're willing to answer any question that you folks, oh, here's pictures of our guys. There's Anthony Secaucus, that was the defensive end All-American. And there's Caleb Toberman. How big's Caleb, Coach Woodard?
6'4", he'd tell me 305, I'll tell you 315.
So both large young men. And then I had to find this one because we had to have one good-looking kid on the entire picture. This is sophomore Callie Tate from in town here, set 3 school records for us in all the backstrokes events this year in swimming, and was second in a number of her races at the Midwest Conference Swimming, and that's as high as many of our kids have done for a number of years. So 3 specific kids there that have done well for us. So that's the end of that for me. So go ahead and ask us any questions about anything you got. Yeah, yes, sir.
I'm asking this as a retired psychologist. For your students, do you have counseling resources here on campus, or do you have to refer them elsewhere off campus?
You want me to tell you the truth, right?
Yes.
We had 2 people on campus that were on campus help for many years. One of them was a former coach's daughter, a basketball coach's daughter. She never failed to help any young man or woman that I sent to him that was dealing with some difficulty. We had another young man. He was pretty good as well. Unfortunately, the woman retired. She was at the age to retire, and the young man got a job at Western Illinois, getting paid more, and we were without that service on campus last year. So 2 wasn't enough, and we had 0, so we had some 24-hour hotline things. The kids made it work. We're back in the game to try to rehire again for this coming year, and I think the applicant pool has been pretty small. There are too many jobs for too few people. I would say the same thing. I told you I'm meeting with the president today. The number 1 thing on my list right now is another certified athletic trainer. We've got 1 certified athletic trainer that's been with us for 20 years now for 400 kids. I've got a $45,000 job open, and we're getting 1 candidate about every 6 months. And I think we may need to go to $50,000 or $60,000 to get somebody. We lost our previous second person about 3 years ago, and one of the local hospitals paid her $10,000 to go out and work with area high schools, and she's closer to home. She didn't have to drive, no weekends, that type of thing. That's the hard thing for being a trainer here. Got to have some evenings, got to have some 6 to 8 p.m. time, and we got a whole bunch of Saturdays and Sundays. Had a guy from Galesburg apply, and oh, I don't want to work weekends and I don't want to work nights. Well, then why did you apply for the job? If you know it's a college job, it's a different thing. So our mental health stuff on campus right now, they're making do and they're trying to hire some more. I can't recommend the 2 we had previously well enough, but we got to get back to that point again. And I don't know if you know, with the athletic training, they changed it from an undergraduate degree to a master's degree. So it's 2 more years of school to be a certified trainer. Some are making really good money. Some aren't making good enough money. We probably think $45,000 is a $10,000 increase for us, but I still don't think it's going to be enough. So that kind of help is on either set is not very easy right now, unfortunately. Thanks for asking. That's good. What else you got? Go ahead.
Long-winded question. Part of the reason I came to Monmouth was all the opportunities. I played football, freshman basketball, was a T, math major, head resident of a dorm.
You were busy.
No, there's so much time. I never had more time than when I was in college.
Good.
But I'll look at the coaches. What are you doing to encourage students to get involved in other activities on campus besides just the sport? And I was under Coach Reichert, and he's a god. I'm sorry, you know, he's was super. Those things made Monmouth for me. And I can't encourage coaches to do that more.
I think they do encourage that. Others would say they allow that. 2 years ago, we got the academic dean to push through an activities block from 4 to 6 p.m. So you should be able to have club meetings. You should be able to go to practice if you're the point guard or the quarterback or the shortstop. As time has gone on, professors have pushed labs further and further back into the day because, of course, they don't want to be at work in the morning because they have to take their kids to school and they have to do lots of other things. So they want to have labs 4 to 7 p.m. Kids miss practice, kids miss dinner. In general, it's been a good thing. They're still not 100% compliant yet, so we have kids that miss class for various things. I would argue the point that some of our kids are over involved and are in 6 or 7 things, so that they're not always focused on what's going on. I'm an old guy now, I'm in my 60s, so I can say whatever I want to say. Not Golden Scots yet, but almost. I think kids are making decisions to be in college far more socially than they are about their major or they are about their participation. I don't believe kids are quite as competitive as what they were probably 20 years ago in regards to their athletics. They can take it or leave it in regards to whether they win or lose. If they're playing, it's okay. If they're getting along with their teammates, it's okay. They don't take it quite as seriously all the time as what I would like to see them take it in regards to some of those things. So we're definitely dealing with a different era in athletics right now, but I think we've got a lot of kids who do a lot of things on campus still in regards to student government. Our best soccer and basketball female player is going to be a head resident. I think they're still involved in a lot of those things that you thought. And again, it goes back to my only message to the coaches is help follow the kids' dreams and directions in terms of what they want to do. If it's possible, let's make it allowable for them to do that. Coach Braun, I've talked to people for years, and I think a lot of our coaches are minimalist coaches, meaning they don't waste a whole bunch of time. I'll stand and I'll put a month's salary on the fact that Chad's football team probably is in the bottom 10% of Division III in regards to how much time they spend. They do film at 3 o'clock before practice. They don't bring them in at night for film and spend 2 hours on football film. They do come in and do study table at night with the kids that need it, but they take a day off during the week so that the coaches can get home and see their families and the kids can have a lab and a day away from having to go from class to practice. They do some stuff on Sunday morning and they usually don't practice on Monday. So we're pretty minimalist in our approach to what we're doing in terms of time away from games and practice. I think they're really efficient that way. I don't force them on them, but I suggest it and they do well with it.
You guys have any players you want to highlight for that?
I'd say that the more our kids are involved, the deeper their roots get, so we're gonna encourage it as well. Caleb Toberman's involved in the choir. When we were out in Virginia Beach, we had to figure out how to get him connected with the chorale that was going to Greece, so I had to coordinate out. We're encouraging kids to be involved and to dig in some roots, because that's why the combination of football and track and volleyball, those are easy combinations to have kids do multiple sports like we talked about earlier, so definitely something we want them to be able to do. So they're if it's important to them, it's gotta be important to us as well, so.
Yeah.
Are there areas in like Texas or Florida where you concentrated on recruiting, like cities or?
Here's where we are today. We've got a $30,000 overall budget for out-of-state recruiting in athletics. That means cars to ride to Galesburg to see a kid in a game, Chicago, Christmas tournaments. That's not very much money. Chad has taken a trip to basically the Orlando, Tampa area for a week, and then he's taken a trip to the Miami area for a week. We have a number of alums that coach down there. That's costing us about $800 a coach, so it doesn't really cost much. You get one kid, it's $20,000 worth of income. So if we send 4 coaches, it costs us about $3,000, but we've got 17, 15, 20 kids every year from down there. As far as an overall plan, we don't have one, unfortunately. Our baseball coach played independent ball after he graduated from Monmouth in Texas. He goes to the primarily the Dallas area. We've had a bunch of kids from Houston for various teams, track and basketball over the years. He can go and watch 60 teams playing a weekend. Well, he can't watch all 60, but he can go and get the contact information, and he can talk. He knows a number of coaches. He can talk to them. We've been pretty successful. We've got to get people on the ground. Monmouth alums, people of interest. We've got to get some kids graduated. I just did a medical school application for a young man from Houston that was a basketball track kid. We got to get in Houston, and I got to get his family to come and talk, because his mom and dad are both from Nigeria. They love Monmouth. They had 2 twin sons come here. They're both medical doctors. You know, those kind of people talking to parents in the Houston area would make a difference. We got to get it organized, but I can't put people on. Chad wants to have 6 coaches go to watch high school football games on Friday night. We got to pay for the rental car. We got to pay for the gas. We got to pay for what we're doing to go out to scout. $30,000 doesn't go very far and doesn't last very long. So that's one of my big agenda items with the president. There are just so many kids out there that are playing sports in other states. We're still doing pretty well in Illinois, and we're still doing pretty well regionally, but in my opinion, we've got to come up with something that makes sense financially for us to get coaches and admissions counselors out in front of them. Admissions hasn't done a lot off campus since COVID, so we've got to get back in the game. We've got a reasonably new admissions director. I trust her, but there needs to be a plan. There's people doing a lot more than what we're doing. Grinnell goes to California and New York State and the East Coast, and they've got coaches spending weeks on end out there doing nothing but going to high schools, and they've made a difference in some of their programs. They got a All-American sprint kid at Grinnell College now that they've never had in 40 years, as long as I've coached here, and they found that kid in California. So we got to decide what we want to be, and we want to be great kids, in my opinion, from a few more states, just because numerically there's so many of them out there to be found, and they're solid students, and many of them can afford to pay. So that's another factor. Good question.
One final one. It's 11:30 on the dot. Can we give coaches and Coach Haynes a nice round? We have shuttles that are out in front of Huff if anyone wants a shuttle to lunch and the Taste of Monmouth. Otherwise, if you want to walk that way or head back to Bowers. Again, thanks for coming, and yeah, have a good afternoon, and we'll see you at lunch.